We begin today the Gemara on Daf Samachay and Aleph, 7 lines down from the top of the Yamud. Omar Abaye. Sagt the Gemara, Omar Abaye. Abaye said, Haiman de Masik, Zuzi de Ribise Bechavrei, a person that lent his friend money and he's charging him interest. And the Ka'azli Chiti Arba Grivi Bezuze. And so the interest that he charged him is to pay him an extra zuz for the loan. And this person, this borrower, instead of giving money for this payment of the ribis, so he's going to give him wheat. Now, what's the value of wheat? You can get arba grivi, which is 4 sa'ah of wheat for the amount of a zuz, b'shukah. That's the going price in the market. V'yav le'iyu chamisha, and he is giving him a cheaper price, and he's giving him 5 grivi, 5 sa'ah of wheat for the price of a zuz, for the payment of this interest. Okay, so the borrower is being nice to him and giving him a cheaper price on this wheat. But now, what's the halacha regarding ribis? We learned before in the Perek here that when it comes to ribis min ha-Torah, after it was collected, you're obligated to return that ribis. So over here, he has to return this ribis. Ki mafkina minei. So when the bezin comes to take back from him the ribis, arba mafkina minei. We only take back from him 4 sa'ah of this wheat, which is really the amount of the ribis that he was demanding from him, which is the value of a zuz according to the market value. Idach, that additional sa'ah of wheat that he gave him, that was something that the borrower himself decided to give cheaper and therefore to provide him more, an extra sa'ah of the wheat, but that wasn't the interest that he charged him. It was the lekech himself that sort of gave it to him as a gift. He decided to give him this extra, sort of a discount. He gave him extra, so that he doesn't have to return. Rava disagrees. Rava says, no, chamisha mafkina minei. We take all 5 sa'ah of wheat that he gave him for the value of this zuz for the charge of interest. Because why is he getting it? He's getting it because of this charge of ribis. If not for the fact that he would charge him ribis, he wouldn't get anything. It's all coming together for the charge of ribis, and therefore you have to return all of it. Even the additional amount of the discount, you have to return all of it when you're forced to return the ribis by the bezin. Another halacha of Amar Abaye. Abaye said, "Haiman de masik arba zuzi de ribisa bechavrei." A person that is collecting 4 zuz of ribis that he charged his friend in a loan, v'yav le'glimi begavayu, and he's not giving him for this charge of ribis money. He's giving him a garment instead. Ki mafkina minei, when we take out, the bezin comes and forces him to return the ribis, so arba mafkina minei, we force him to give back 4 zuz, glimule mafkina minei. We don't force him to give back the actual garment itself. He can keep the garment, but he has to give back the money, the value of that 4 zuz.
The 4 zuz is the keren, no?
Huh?
Isn't the 4 zuz the keren?
I'm not sure if it goes on the keren. I think it goes on the ribis itself. I think so. Or maybe
where these 4 zuz can come from.
The 4 zuz is the loan itself. Okay, the 4 zuz is the loan itself, and then there's a glime that is for the extra zuz. Okay, so that's okay. The 4 zuz is the loan itself, and the glima is for an extra zuz that he charged him, and he didn't give him another zuz for the ribis. He gave instead a garment. So when you have to return that extra zuz, you don't give back the garment itself. You can keep the garment. Sorry, you give back just that extra zuz that you charged.
He says you give him back the 4 zuz. He says.
Ki mafkina minei arba mafkina minei glima le mafkina minei. Yeah. Okay. So look again. So let me go back to the pshat that I said. The lashon of the Gemara is that the ribis was 4 zuz, and therefore that you give back 4 zuz and not the garment.
The ribis was 4 zuz.
The ribis was 4 zuz plus whatever the loan was, not plus a garment. The ribis was 4 zuz, and he's not the borrower is not giving him 4 zuz. He's giving him a garment, the value of 4 zuz. Okay, Rava says glima mafkina minei, that no, we have to take out the actual garment itself and return it. We're not going to charge. We're not going to tell him give back the money, the value of the ribis. He paid you for this ribis, a garment. Return that garment itself. My time. Why do we take back the garment itself? That this lender this garment that he has, that he's wearing, that he's covering himself with, glima de ribisu. People are going to say, look, he's wearing this garment of ribis, even if he returns money, but people see that he has this garment of ribis that he's wearing, so therefore we take back the actual garment itself that was collected for the ribis. Omar Rave said, Hi man the masik, tracer, zuzi de ribisa bechavre, a person that charged his friend 12 zuz of ribis. Okay, so there's a loan, whatever amount the loan is. But then there's the charge of the ribis that he charged him. And the amount of ribis that he's charging him is 12 zuz. V'ogel echotzer, the mizgare ba'asore, v'oigre ne'alei betreser. And now the borrower says to him, I owe you this ribis of 12 zuz. I'm not giving you 12 zuz, but I have this house here, or this apartment. You could live in it, and that will be my pay for ribis for you. Now this apartment that he's living in, let's say it's worth, to live in it for a month, the normal charge of rent is just 10 zuz. And he's telling him that I'm going to, for you, and he's renting it to him, and he's telling him, I'm charging you for this 12, and therefore, this will be the payment of the ribis, because you're going to get it free of charge. So really, it was a cheaper, the rent was cheaper, the rent was just 10. But he's telling him, I'm charging you 12, but you're living here for free, so therefore that will be the payment of the ribis. Okay, so now, kimafkinan minei, when we come and take back this ribis, the Bezdin forces this person, the Malva, to pay back the ribis, so how much are you going to force him to give back? On one hand, he charged him ribis 12. On the other hand, he actually, how did the borrower pay up the ribis? He paid up the ribis with allowing the lender to live in his house, which the real market value of it is just 10. So when we take it away from him, the ribis, ki mafkinim minei, teresa mafkinim minei. We are going to take back from him 12, which was the original charge of the ribis, even though he really only got, according to market value, just 10. So Rav Achim tells Ravina, why do we take back from him 12? Why doesn't the lender say, Ki agre hochi, when I lived here in this house, and I agreed to live here for a price of 12, and I accepted that as the payment of the ribis of 12, even though it's higher than the price of the rental that's supposed to be according to market value. The reason why I accepted this is because the havakam mishtarshili, because I was gaining from this. Because now I'm living here for free. This was the charge of interest that I charged him, and then he's giving me, for that payment that I'm gaining now, that I can live here for free. So I decided that I'll take the higher price of 12 and live there, and that will be the payment of the ribis. But that's what I'm gaining. I accepted this. Now that this is not a gain to me at all, I'm being charged for this. I have to return this ribis. So I should be charged. It should go according to the rate that everybody pays, which is only 10. I only actually got a value of 10 from him because that's the real value that everyone pays. Why am I returning more than that? And so the Gemara says, no, still we take from him the value of 12 that he charged ribis, that he was ready to accept before. The reason is, Mishum Da'am Malay, we say to him, Savris v'kiblis, you thought about this and you accepted that this that you're living here has a value of 12. You made the charge of interest 12, and you accepted this that you're living there as a value of 12. So that's what you got from him. You got 12 from him, and therefore you have to return 12, not 10. If a person is renting from you a house, and he's paying you at the end of the rental, he's not paying you in the beginning. So because he's paying you at the end, you're telling him that the price is going to be more expensive. You're allowed to put up the price. You're allowed to say to him, look, if you're paying me in advance, and there's a cheaper price. But if I have to wait for the money, so then it's going to be more expensive. You're allowed to do that when it comes to a rental. But when it comes to a sale, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to say to a person, I sell this to you. If you pay me now, then it'll be a cheaper price. If you pay me later, it'll be more expensive. That you're not allowed to do. The Mishnah spells out the case over here. Keitzad, so what's the case here? His kilo is chatzeiroi. You're renting a person a place in your courtyard, apartment, whatever it is, and you tell the renter, if you're paying me in advance, let's say you're going to rent here for a year, if you pay me the rent in advance for the whole year, so it'll be 10 slom for the whole year. But if you pay me at the end of the month, every month, so then Selah l'chaydish. Then you're going to have to pay me a full selah for a month, which is going to be 12 slayim for the whole year. So over here, you would think that this should be ribis, right? Because the masker over here is gaining by the fact that he's delaying, he's allowing him to pay later, he's waiting for his money, and because of that, he's charging him extra. So l'chayr, it should be ribis over here that the masker is gaining. But mutter, no, this is allowed, and the Gemara will explain why this is allowed. However, if it's in a sale, you're selling a person a property, and you tell the buyer, if you're paying me now for the sale, then the price is going to be 1,000 zuz. If I have to wait for you to pay me by the end of the season, when you're going to have all your wheat that you have, that you sell, and then you'll have money for me, then the shnei masamana. If you're paying to me much later, then the price is going to go up. It's going to be 12 mana. Aser. On a sale, this is not allowed. If you're charging him extra because he's delaying his payment, so the masker here is gaining by the fact that you're delaying the payment. That's like ribis. Therefore, it's aser. So the Gemara explains, that Gemara asks, Ma'ishna reisha or Ma'ishna seifa? What difference does it make if we're talking here about a case of a sale or we're talking about a case of a rental? Why regarding a rental, if you delay the payment and you charge extra, is it allowed? And by a sale, if you delay the payment and you charge extra, is it not allowed? So Rabbi and Rav Yosef both explained, when it comes to a rental, the time to pay it minadin is at the end. You pay for a rental, you don't pay for it in the beginning. You pay for it at the end of the month. That's when you pay the rent for that month. That's the right time to pay for it. So over here, when it's before the beginning of the rental, it's not the time yet to collect the money for the rent. So lav agar notale mashvahu. You're not charging him over here extra at the end of the month because he's delaying payment. He's not delaying the payment. That's the time to pay. The hachi shavya. When you're telling him that it's a seller per month and it comes out 12 slayim for the year, it's an extra charge for the fact that he delayed the payment for you. It's not an extra charge. That's the time to pay, and that's the charge for the payment of that at the end of the month. Hi, the kamale, and this that the renter tells him, or the masker that is, or the person that's renting it out, he tells him, the fact that it tells him that if you pay me in advance for this rental, I'll give it to you cheaper, that it'll only be 10 for the entire year. He's doing him a favor. He's saying that it's going to be cheaper for you now. He's not charging him extra when he's allowing him to pay later. That's the right time to pay. If you want to pay ahead of time now, so then it's going to be cheaper over here. Now, yeah, and this is the fact that it's going to be cheaper. Okay, so that's why it's not considered to be any ribis for the masker. He's not gaining anything by the fact that he's charging him extra later. And also, the Rishonim explained the fact that he's giving it to him cheaper now in advance, and it's not going to be considered ribis for the seicher. You might say, wait a minute, there should be ribis here in the reverse for the seicher. He's getting over here this apartment that has a value of 12 for the year, and because he's giving the money in advance, so therefore he's only paying 10. So he's paying 10 and he's getting back more. He's getting back an apartment that's worth 12. But it's not considered to be ribis for the seicher. The reason is because he's getting it right away. It's not something that he's getting later on. He pays for it and he gets it right away. That's not considered to be ribis when he's not waiting for it. He gets it right away. The Gemara before discussed this idea of ribis when you pay ahead and then the seller provides you the produce or the item later on. And because you're paying it ahead, so therefore there's ribis when you get later on a higher value for what you paid ahead. But over here he's not getting it later. He's getting it right away. So there's no ribis here for the seicher. And as the Gemara explained, for the masker also, there's no ribis as well because he's not charging him extra later on because he's paying him later. That's the actual right time to pay for a rental. You pay after the month is up. That's yeah.
All he's doing is giving him a discount.
Yeah, he's giving him a discount in the beginning, but the price that he's charging him later is the right price. Okay, that's regarding a sale because this is regarding a rental. That is right when you pay at the end. But seifa, in the seifa of the Mishnah where it talks about a sale, because we're talking here about a sale, by a sale you actually pay for the sale right away when you make the acquisition, so you have to pay right away. Hilkach agar natar lehu. Over here, if you're telling him that if you're going to pay me later on, you're going to pay me in a couple of months of now, then it's going to be more expensive. So then you're actually telling him, yeah, because I'm waiting for the payment, therefore you're going to have to pay me extra. So this is actually a ribis for the masker. He's charging him extra because he's paying him later on. V'asra, therefore it's not allowed. Omar Rava said about the svara here, Doku bar Rabbanan Baha Milsa, the Rabbanan were Medayik, they searched for a source of this concept that the time of the payment of a rental is at the end, Vaikmu Akra, and they based it on the Lashon of the Pasuk where it says, K'schir Shana B'Shana, like the rental that there is from one year to another year, and that what this means is, Schiris Shal Shana Zu, Eine Mishtalemes Ela B'Shana Acheres. The rental for 1 year, if it's a rental, before you were talking about a rental of a month of a time, but if it's a rental a year at a time, when do you pay for the rent of this year? At the beginning of the next year, at the end of the time of the rental, not at the beginning. Therefore we see this idea also here in the Pasuk. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to another point that we could learn out from our Mishnah. The Mishnah said when it comes to a sale, that if you're charging him extra by a sale because he's only paying you later on, that's not allowed. You're charging him extra because he's delaying the payment. Rav Nachman said the following halacha: Trasha shari. Trasha would be allowed. What's this concept of trasha? So this lashon of trasha means like this: when a person sells something, sells whatever merchandise it is, and he tells this buyer that you don't have to pay me now, you pay me later, and because you're going to pay me later, you pay me more than what I would charge you today. So in so when you sell something in this Eifin and you charge more, it's allowed. The lashon of trasha, the Rishonim discuss what the source of this word means. Rashi doesn't say anything about it. There's different Pirushim Rishonim say. One pshat is that the word trasha means these tall, big rocks in a mountain. So what the seller is telling the buyer is that I'm selling this to you, and because you're paying me later, so then it's going to be a higher price. So that's allowed, he says. So the Gemara asks on this. He asked Rav Nachman on this halacha. The Mishnah said exactly regarding this case that it's not allowed. You sell someone a property and you tell him if you're paying me later on, you're going to pay a higher price. It's not allowed. You're charging him more because he's delaying the payment. So he answered him, Hassam Kotzle. Over there in our Mishnah, it's because the person is fixing this. He's saying right in the beginning clearly, if you pay me now, you pay me one price. You pay me later, you pay a higher price. That's not allowed. But over here, the halacha that Rav Nachman said, Hacha loy Kotzle. Over here, you're not telling him that clearly. You're not spelling him out like this, that if you pay me now, it's one price. If you pay me later, it's another price. You just tell him, Stam, I'm selling it to you and pay me on this and this date, this and this price. That's it. You don't talk about a cheaper price now, and then because you've delayed, on that date, pay me this and this price. It's allowed. Now, Rav Papa said about this concept of trasha, he said he gave a different reason in the way he did this, why this would be allowed. He said, trasha didi, the way I charge when someone pays me and I charge him a higher price for a later time, that what I'm selling, it's allowed. Shari, it's allowed. And the reason was like this. So as we see here in the Gemara, Rav Papa, he made beer. And he was selling beer. When is the beer produced? So it's produced in Tishrei time. After the produce comes into the house from the whole season, and then you make the beer in Tishrei time. But when the beer ferments over the whole winter, and when do you actually sell it? You sell it in Nisan time. Okay, so over here, what he would do is, in Tishrei time, if you want to buy beer then, it's much cheaper. The price is much cheaper because that's not yet when the time when people are actually buying the beer. So Rav Papa would sell the beer in Tishrei time, and he would give the price in Tishrei of Nisan. He says, if you're paying me in Nisan time, so then you're going to have to pay me the Nisan price, even though the sale is taking place now in Tishrei, and now there's a cheaper price for this. But if you're paying me in Nisan time, you have to pay me the Nisan price. So this is this concept of trasha. The sale's happening now in Tishrei, but because you're paying me in Nisan time, so you're going to have to pay me the Nisan price. So Rav Papa said, when I do that, it's allowed. Why? My time. Because shechroi loy posid. My beer that I have over here now, it's not getting ruined if it sits here until from Tishrei until Nisan time. The beer is going to be the same good quality now and later. Zuzi leitzerichne ano. or Zuzi Leitzerichna, that is. I don't need the money from this person right now. It's not like I really need the money now because I'm waiting for it and I'm allowing him to pay me 6 months later, so therefore I'm going to charge him extra. No, I don't need the money right now. I have enough money. I know the Karavidne Milse Gabi Lekeach. I'm doing a favor here for the Lekeach that I'm allowing him to buy the beer now, that he should know that he's guaranteed that he has the beer. If he wants to pay me now, I'll get the price according to now. So I'm just doing a favor for the Lekeach that he can buy the beer now. But really, I'm not really gaining anything over here out of this fact that I'm selling it now to him and then I'm making a more expensive price for him for paying later. As far as I'm concerned, the sale could have happened later on in Nisan time. I don't need the money now at all. I'm just doing a favor for the Lekeach. He wants to buy it now. So therefore, it's not an aganata. It's not, from my perspective, which from Rav Papa's perspective, the seller, he's not interested in gaining anything by this higher price that he's setting him for waiting until later. But on this, some Rav Sheshes Bereder Rav Papa. Rav Sheshes asks Rav Papa about this. Why are you explaining this? That there's no issue of ribis here. Looking at it from your perspective, look at it from the perspective of the buyer. If the buyer came to you now in Tishrei time, if you would actually have money on him, he would pay you now with a cheaper price that there is to buy beer now in Tishrei, and he would pay cheaper. But now that they're not giving you the money now, so then they're paying you according to the price of Nisan time, when they actually pay, and then the price goes up. So from the perspective of the buyer, this is ribis. Because he's delaying the payment till later, therefore he has to pay a higher price. So he says not a good enough of a reason why this should not be ribis. Another case, the Gemara says, Rab Chama said, Trasha didi vadai shari. The trasha that I do, the way I charge a more expensive price, this is definitely allowed. Now, what's this case over here? So Rashi says we're talking about a person that sells merchandise, and he has his merchandise in a place where it's cheaper to sell, and he gives it to someone else to sell for him in another place where it's more expensive. So he has a shliach that goes and sells it to him in another city where you could sell the same merchandise for a higher price. And now those people that are selling it for you for a higher price, they get that money from the higher price, and then they could use that money for themselves to buy merchandise and to buy different things for themselves in that city. And then they'll have to pay you back the money only after they come back. They'll have to give you back that money. They have to pay you the higher price that they got for this item in that city. You understand what I'm talking about? So if you have an item that if you sell it over here in Brooklyn, it's going to cost you $100. But if you take it upstate, so then over there you can sell it for $150. So he's taking these tablecloths and he's telling him, take it and sell it for me in upstate for $150. Those $150 that you make from this tablecloth, it's not commission. It's not commission. The $150 that you got for those tablecloths, you can use that $150 for yourself, buy yourself whatever merchandise you want with it, and then you're going to come back over here and you're going to sell your merchandise for the $150 and you'll make a profit. And then after you make a profit, you'll give me back the $150 for the tablecloths that you sold. Okay, so really, these tablecloths that they sold over there upstate, over here, if they would have sold it in Brooklyn, then it would be sold for $100. But because it's being sold in a different place over there, he's saying you're going to have to pay me for these tablecloths that you're selling $150. So he's charging them more for a different place that they're selling it in. So is there an issue of ribis over here? Similar to the point that we spoke about, that the selling it and the payment is going to be at a later time, you have to pay a higher price over here as well, because they're selling it somewhere else and now there's a higher price that you have to pay for it. But the thing is, as Rashi says, the case over here is that the tablecloths still belongs to the seller, to the owner, and he really has the responsibility over it for whatever happens to it, the entire way that they go there, traveling to upstate to sell it over there. It still belongs to you. It's not their tablecloths. They're selling it for you. After they sell it, and now they have the money, now it's this is the money that they have now, it's their money, the shluchim that are selling it to you, now it becomes their money that they could spend. It's like a loan. Now it becomes like a loan. They could spend this money, they can use it, they can buy themselves their own merchandise that they want, and then make profit. And then after they make a profit, they'll pay you back that $150. So there is no ribis over here for the fact that you're charging them $150 because it's yours. It's not theirs that you're selling it to them right now when you give it to them here in Brooklyn, and now they have to pay you $150 for selling it in upstate. It's yours until they sell it there in upstate. The entire time it still belongs to the original seller. So there's no issue of ribis here. But the Gemara does address, though, there is another issue of ribis, and that is that when they pay you back in the end for the tablecloth, they pay you back $150. Plus, there is the whole service that they did for you. The work that they went, the salesman, they did the whole work for you. So you gave them a tablecloth, which is a price of $150, and they're giving you back now this $150 plus the entire service that they did for you. So why isn't this ribis? So the Gemara explains it's not. But he's not though. He's not. So he's getting back $150 plus the whole tircha and the whole work that they did for you. They're doing it. The reason why these people are doing it is because they get that time that they can use the money. They don't have any money for themselves to make any business. They're not getting paid any commission, but now they have money that they can buy their own merchandise for that time period. It's sort of like a loan. Now they have their own money that they can buy their own merchandise and then make profit on their own merchandise that they're going to buy. That's
not business. That's not business.
They have cash that they can.
Cash flow only.
Yeah, cash flow. Exactly. They're getting a cash flow. It's a loan. It's a loan. In other words, right? And they're paying that back, and plus they're giving him the service that they did for him. So the Gemara he says, no, this is not ribis. My time, because these sellers that are doing the sale for you and they're going to use this money, they're interested. They're happy. The leike b'rishusi that it should still belong to the original seller, which is over here in this case Rav Chame, because the cholhecha the kaazli, because wherever they come to sell this tablecloth. And they say, we're selling Rav Chame's tablecloth. So then everyone says, Rav Chame is a big Talmud Chacham. Shavke lehu mechse. They don't charge him taxes because the Talmud Chacham, the Gemara says in Bava Metzia, that certain taxes that the Talmud Chacham wasn't charged. So they don't get charged taxes. And so the tax-free, or not of tax, certain taxes they don't not charge. And not only that, they are the ones that are able to sell in the marketplace before everyone else. Because the Talmud Chacham gets to sell first. So therefore they have a benefit that they can take care of this and do this very easily and very quickly without this extra charge of taxes as well. So therefore it's their gain. As much as you're gaining from their service for you, they're also gaining from this for themselves. So therefore there's no issue over here of ribis. The Gemara here concludes, V'hilchasik Rav Chame. We pass in here like what Rav Chame just said regarding this case. And also V'hilchasik Rav Elazar. We pass in like Rabbi Elazar. This is going back to a sugya earlier on in the Pedic where it discussed the halacha of ribis ktsutza, which is a ribis minatayre that you have to return it. Rabbi Yechanan disagreed with that, but Rabbi Elazar says that ribis minatayre, after it was charged and it was paid, the bezdin forces to return it. And also v'hilchasik Rabbi Yanai, we pass in like another halacha earlier in the sugya that Rabbi Yanai said the Oma mali hein mali dmeyen. Rabbi Yanai said regarding a case of psike ala peris, without getting into all the details of the sugya before, but in a case of a sale where a person is paying a certain amount now and he's only going to pay him later, so the price goes up later if he has the peris available in his possession now. Or even if he doesn't have the paydas in his possession now, he has the money for those paydas in his possession now, there's no issue of ribis, the fact that the price goes up later. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Machar lo yasasada, person sells someone a field, v'nasan lo mikzas dame, and the buyer only pays part of the payment for this field. And v'alma loi, and now the seller tells the buyer, emes shetirtze, whenever you want, hava mois, bring me the rest of the money, v'toil el shalcha, and take the rest of the property of yours. Aser, it'll be aser to do this in this case, and Rashi explains, why would this be aser? Why can't you pay a down payment now, and then you'll pay the rest of the payment later, and then you'll take the property that I sold you? So the case over here is, you're telling him that when you bring me the rest of the money later, then the sale takes effect retroactively from the beginning of when you gave me the down payment. And the reason this is going to be a problem over here is because who is the one that's using the fruits of this property during that time period when he didn't yet pay the full payment for this property? Is it the meicher, the one that's eating from the fruits? If the meicher is the one that's eating from these fruits, so then what happens when he actually pays him? And now the sale takes effect retroactively from when he paid him in the beginning, the down payment. So it comes out that the meicher got the payment for the property plus the fruits that he was eating during this time. So it comes out that he's getting paid more than the value of the property that he sold him. So it's a issue of ribis. What happens if it's the other way around? If it's the seller, the one that was, sorry, not the seller, the lekeach, the buyer is the one that's eating the fruits during this interim, during this time period. What happens now if the buyer can't come through with the cash? So what happens now? The whole sale, we gave him a down payment, but he can't come through then with the rest of the payment later. So the whole sale becomes null and void. Now the seller just gives him back the down payment. It ends up being basically like a loan. He gave him the down payment and he returns him the down payment. Right. So now the lekeach gets back the down payment, plus in the interim he was eating fruits. So he becomes like a lender now. He lent the seller money and he gets back the down payment plus fruits. So that's again an issue of ribis. So therefore doing it in this way, it could end up being ribis, therefore it's asa. Another case, a person lends a person on a property, meaning the property here is a collateral for this loan. And the borrower says, or the lender that it says, the lender says, if you're not going to pay me up until the time of 3 years, I'm going to keep this property. So this is his, you're allowed to do this, the lender will be able to keep this property. And Baitis ben Zunin did this according to the Chachamim, and this is allowed. This is something the Gemara actually discussed before. I don't know if the Gemara is going to discuss it again later, but the Gemara discussed this before. Over here, in this case, you also have to know who's the one that eats the paytis in this time period of this property, of these 3 years. Is the Meicha the one that eats it? Is the Lekeach the one that eats it? Can end up being ribis here also. Okay, that's a separate discussion. Okay, let's go into the Gemara here. The Gemara will discuss the first case of the Mishnah here. Mi oichel paytis. So regarding this case over here, the Mishnah, that it says that a person bought a property and he gave a down payment, and then later on he's going to pay later. In the interim, who's the one that eats the paytis? Which is really the case that the Mishnah was discussing. And as I explained, according to Rashi, there's an issue over here. If the Meicha eats the paytis, could end up being ribis. If the Lekeach eats the paytis, could end up being ribis. So Ravuna Meicha eichel paytis. Ravuna says, no, the Meicha could eat the paytis. Ravana says, Mishalshan is a paytis. You have to give the paytis to a third party to see what's going to end up happening. Who's the one that gets the paytis? But now, none of them can eat the paytis because they could end up ribis either way. And the Gemara explains, V'loi pligi, they're not arguing because this is based on what it said in our Mishnah, and then none of them are arguing what it said in our Mishnah. Ha da'amalei lichi maisis kani. If the case over here is that the seller tells him that when you bring me the rest of the payment, that's when the sale takes effect. It's not taking effect retroactively. The sale only takes effect now when you bring me the money now. So until that point, the Meicha can eat the fruits. It's still his. And here, when it says that none of them can eat the fruits, as I explained it before in the Mishnah, it's when he's telling him that when you bring me the money now, the sale takes effect retroactively. So now it's going to be a problem whether the Meicher or the Lekeach eats the fruits, as I explained before. Now, Tanit of Safra beribis the Beir Abchir of Safra taught in the Braise of Ribis that was taught by Abchir regarding this kind of case where you have a down payment for a sale and then he's paying the rest later. That there's different possibilities regarding the Ribis here and who is the one that eats the fruits, the Meicher or the Lekeach. Sometimes we say that it's allowed both for the Lekeach or the Meicher to eat the fruits in the interim. Sometimes it'll be forbidden for either one of them to eat the fruits. Sometimes the Meicher is the one that's allowed to eat the fruits and the Lekeach is not. Sometimes the Lekeach is the one that's allowed to eat the fruits and the Meicher is not allowed. That was the Braise of the way Rav Safra taught it. Ani Rav Basrei, so Rav came and explained after him what are all these cases. He spelled out when all these different halachas apply. Sometimes both of them are going to be allowed to eat from the fruits. That is in the case the Amalei Kni Keshir Zuzech. You paid me a down payment for the property, or let's say you paid 20% for the property. Okay, so 20% is yours. 20% is already sold. You can eat from it. So now over here, both of them can eat from the fruits of the property. The seller still eats from the percent that was not sold yet, and the buyer eats from the percent that was sold. And then even if it's not exact, he takes a little bit more, so it's going to be considered like he's giving him a gift, he's allowing him to take extra, but they both have rights in this property to eat from the fruits in it.
So he's selling him portion.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, whatever he sold him now was sold. Pa'amim sheshneim asurim, in the case when both of them are going to be also to eat from it, and this is like we explained already before, the amalei, so that's when the seller tells them, lichimaisis, when you bring me the rest of the money, kini me'achshav, then you're going to be acquiring it retroactively from now. So over here, if the sale takes effect, it could end up being ribis because the moicher is getting his payment plus fruits that he ate in the interim. If the sale does not end up taking effect, so then the lekeach gets back his down payment and he also gets fruits.
He says both of them are forbidden.
To eat from the fruits in this time in between. Yeah, they're both of them are not going to be allowed to eat from it.
There's no ribis. Nobody ate them.
Nobody
ate them.
If they're both not going to eat, so then there's no ribis. Exactly, they're both not allowed to eat in order that it shouldn't be ribis. Right? Now, pa'amim, moicher muter, v'lekeach, then it could be a case where the moicher is allowed to eat from the peiris and the lekeach is not allowed. The amalei, that's in the case where the moicher tells them, lichimaisis kani. When you bring me the money, then the sale takes effect. Okay, so until that time period, the moicher is allowed to eat. But the lekeach is not allowed to eat because what happens if he doesn't bring the money? So then he gets back his down payment plus the fruits that he ate. So it's going to be ribis. Pa'amim, then sometimes shalekeach muter, that when he gave the down payment, the lekeach is going to be allowed to eat the fruits in the time in between until he pays the rest of the money. And the moicher is not allowed to eat anymore because the amalei kini me'achshav. He tells him, you gave me a down payment, the entire sale is already in effect from now. The payment, it's a loan. You owe me the money, you pay me later, but the payment, the kinyan is not taking effect later, retroactively. No, the kinyan is already fully in effect. So the lekeich is allowed to eat the peiris. Now, but the moicher though will not be allowed to eat the peiris because then the moicher is getting payment plus peiris. So that would be ribis. So therefore he's not allowed to eat the peiris. Now the Gemara says on this, and this goes back also on the halacha of our Mishnah, man tana shnei masurim. Who is the tana of this brayson of the Mishnah that says that in this case when the sale is that it's a down payment and you pay the rest later, and when you pay later, the king goes back me'achshav retroactively, that then we say both of them are not allowed to eat because it could end up being ribis. This does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. This was brought already earlier here in the Pedic. Why? Because the Rabbi Yehuda, if it's according to Rabbi Yehuda ha'ama, Rabbi Yehuda says, tzad echad beribis muter. Any kind of deal that you make in a loan, in a sale, where from the deal it comes out that it's not a definite fact that it's going to be ribis. It could end up becoming ribis. If it's only one possibility that it's going to be ribis, it's not considered to be ribis. Over here, it's a possibility it'll be ribis. If the moiche eats the fruits, if the sale goes through, then it ends up being ribis. If the lekeich eats the fruits, if the sale does not go through and he gets back his down payment plus fruits that he ate, it won't be ribis. But what if the lekeich eats the fruits and the sale actually went through? There's no ribis. If the moiche ate the fruits and the sale does not go through, there's no ribis either. So it's not definite that it's going to be ribis. It's a deal where there's one possibility it should be ribis and a possibility not. So there's no ribis according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Further, now this is a continuation of the brayso before. It says mishkan lebayis, mishkan lesadeh. There was a loan, and here it's a house or a property that was a collateral for this loan. And now the lender says to the borrower, if you want to sell this house or property that I have as a collateral for the loan that I lent you, so don't sell it to anybody else. Sell it to me for this loan that I lent you that you owe me. So asr, it's not going to be allowed, because what this means is, let's say he lent him $100, and now he wants to sell this home. The value of the home is $200. And now he's selling it to you for a cheaper price. He says, I'm going to sell it to you for $150 because this was a collateral for the loan that you lent me, so I'll give it to you for a cheaper price. So it comes out that he lent him $100 and he's getting back. He's gaining over here an extra $50 because he's reducing the price $50 for him. So that's not allowed. But b'shavyeh muter, if he's selling it to him for its regular price and whatever extra amount he has to pay that's not in the loan, he charges him the full regular price, then it's allowed because he's not gaining anything out of this. Okay, so now the Gemara says, this part of the brayso as well, man tane bedomim alolu ase, who is the tana over here that when you set this kind of a deal, that this is going to be also because this ribbis over here. This is also not like Rabbi Yehuda. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that if it's a case where the deal that you made, it's only one possibility that it would be ribbis, but it's also possible that it won't be ribbis, then it's allowed. So over here, when you take this collateral from the borrower and you tell him, this house I'm taking as a collateral from you, if you're going to sell it to me for a reduced price because of the loan that I'm giving you. So it's possible it'll be ribbis if he gives him that reduced price, but it's possible it won't. Who says he's not going to sell? Who says he's going to sell it b'chlal? He might not end up selling it b'chlal, and even if he does, maybe he'll charge him the full price. So it's not necessarily that it's going to be ribbis. So such a kind of deal where it's not a clear charge of ribbis that he definitely is charging me must pay this interest. There's no ribbis according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, now the Gemara explains another case over here, also a continuation of the Braisa before. Machalei bayis, machalei sada. You sell a person a house or a field. The seller says that when I have money, then you'll give me back this house. So this is basically a situation where it's a sale, but it could end up just being a loan, because the seller is saying that if I have money, then I'm going to pay you back, which then means that the buyer is a buyer/lender. He's basically paying, but also really lending money if he ends up returning the house to him. So this is usher. This is not allowed. But if it's the buyer himself that comes and offers and says that when you have money, then I'll return this property to you, then mutter, then it's going to be allowed. Okay, so what we're talking about over here is that the issue of the ribbis is that the meicher is eating fruits from this property. So if it ends up being a loan, so then the lekeach gets back the money that he paid for the house, and also the lekeach also ate paytis, so he gets back the money that he paid, and now he was a buyer, but now he ends up being a lender, gets back his money plus paytis. So that's going to be an issue of ribbis. Okay, but still the Gemara says, if it's the lekeach himself that's offering that when you have money, then I'll take back the money that I paid you, and it'll end up just being a loan, then it is allowed. And the Gemara is soon going to explain the reason for this difference. But before that, the Gemara says, Ma'an Tana, again over here, regarding this Braisa, who is the Tana of this Braisa? This does not follow what Rabbi Yehuda said. Since according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's only one possibility that it would be ribbis, but it's a possibility it won't, then it's allowed. Over here, if the sale goes through, it's not a loan, it's a regular sale, and there's no ribbis. If the sale does not go through, and then it turns into a loan, then it's going to be an issue of ribbis, because he's getting back his money plus fruits that he ate here. So now the Gemara explains, Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. What's the difference in the Reisha, where the Meicher is the one that's demanding this, and he's making a condition that if I have money, you must take back my money and give me back my property? Or in the case of the Seifa, where the Lekeach is offering, if you'll have money, then I'll take back your money. Amar Rave, so Rave explained, Reisha, take out these words. Let's just read without the parentheses. Seife, the amalemi daite. In the Seife over here, the lekeach is offering. He's not forced to do this. The lekeach is initiating. He's offering that if I want, I'll accept the money back from you. So in a case where the meicher is saying lechatchile that I'm only selling it to you on the condition that if I have money, then I'll pay you back and you'll give me back the property. So then basically, this is a sale/loan. It's really more of a loan than a sale. But if it's the lekeach that's offering this, so then it's really just a sale. And the meicher can't back out of this, it's a sale. If the lekeach wants, then he's ready to accept back the money. But that's not a loan, it's one sale, then another sale. It's two different separate sales. So therefore there's no issue of ribbis over here that he's getting back his money plus paytis. It's just a new sale that's taking place.